Good evening, family. It's Shay Seeking from American Aborigines Unchained on Facebook and YouTube. And I just want to do a quick little etymology on the term wedlock, right? So I have been watching a movie on Real Black. It's a YouTube channel. I think that's what the name of it is. And they show a whole bunch of throwback movies of so-called black people. In one of the movies, I can't remember the name of it, but I know Felicia Rashad was in it. hmm Uh, and it was about a little boy, and I guess he moved with his grandparents and had to move around within his family, and it talked about things that were going on in the good old days in the South, right? So in that movie, the term wedlock came up, and I think it was on my mind all day on it, but my phone was dead. And I couldn't, get to my phone. I was tired. I just ended up going to bed. And then, like I said, when I fell asleep, I kept thinking about it when I woke up in the morning. So I ended up looking at the term. And I'm like, okay, that's a little bit interesting, whatever. Because again, at this point in time in my life, on my journey, I doubt that um, uh, it is a sin to have so called intercourse with another being that may result in a form of pregnancy or not sometimes. I doubt that that is some kind of sin. I don't even look at sin the same way. I think these are things that people use to oppress and control, especially certain groups of people when it comes to bringing so called life into this world, along with Planned Parenthood and all of those covert ways of warfare that have been applied to certain groups of people or a certain group of people um, when it comes to certain things like this. Okay. So I said, I refuse to believe that wedlock and the way that they taught us in church or the way that we've been taught in life, that this doesn't make sense in that aspect, right? Just because you don't have a piece of paper from your government, okay, that actually puts you into the custody of that government and gives them more control over your life and your children when you do have them after you get married. The cost of divorce, the cost of marriages, and that being a form of turning you into a consumer that spends all this money on this big party in order to basically say that you love each other. Okay. Now, I had a marriage. I am married. I had a wedding. I did those things. But again, now that I look at it now, it's just another control mechanism. You have to go ask your daddy, which is the government, if you can even marry the people. And then they give you some paper that you have to pay for. And again, it's all about money. Not for them, because the people at this top that rule things do not even really use money the way that you do, you and I do. So again, it's about money in order to use that to control us as a society, and for our privileges and things of that nature. So again, I refuse to believe that this is talking about two people having a baby and the baby is something wrong with the baby because they were not married in that manner. That doesn't make any sense and never will again to me, because now I'm looking into this and I see what it really is. So anyhow, I said, well, what does it mean? Because all of a sudden it just was making me think, now what the hell if wedlock, okay, meant some kind of joining together with the government or the government, okay? Which, again, same thing. And what if this whole thing of having a baby out of wedlock is something like, think of the, it's not the Mormons, but who are the ones that, Amish? The Amish. So, like the Amish, they have babies at home, they raise their babies. They do, I don't even think that they get vaccines. There's certain things or whatever. I don't study them too much, but I'm just saying that I think they go against and they have the right to do so, right? So I'm just thinking, what if that was because of the how this was taking place in that storyline was uh, of that movie, They were living in the South, and there were thriving so-called black communities. And you know, these people weren't, even though they had to work for overseers or plantations or on farms or whatever, doing things that I bet they would rather not for small amounts of money. um, I would believe that they were, some form of, the movie was describing it. Sorry, oh, I'm tired. Sorry. So the movie was, saying that they were, a community that was tight. They helped each other out. They grew their own food. They, they were doing pretty well, whatever, without any type of assistance or anything. They took care of each other. They didn't have any type of uh, food stamps or anything like that, right? It was like a real so-called community. And they owned their own homes and things like that. So I'm wondering, what if this means that these people were not having birth certificates? They were kind of just having babies in the backyard. And even like, uh, one of the people that I follow on Facebook did a video, and I don't know whether to say names or not, so I just don't right now. But he was doing a live, and he was saying something about how back in the day, people buried grandma in on the land or in the backyard, and there was a connection to the soil. You wanted to stay close to home. When you were living on that plot of land, you didn't disrespect it as much because you knew that grandma was buried on the land, things like that or whatever. So again, they didn't have someone come and take your loved ones from you and take them somewhere to do who knows what to them, before they get ready to so-called lay them to rest. um, so again, that just made me think about that whole thing. That I bet you this has something to do with people not coming into becoming citizens or getting birth certificates, or uh, you know um, having this entity, this governing entity over them as they do natural things in life, taxes and things like that, like not being taxed. So they wanted you to basically become a citizen and sign up for their to their corporation, okay, as an employee or a slave, a sense of a slave or a worker. um, and so whatever, I hope you get the drift of what I'm saying. I'm getting kind of out of it a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and finish reading the term. Okay. So Old English, wedlock, uh, pledge. So this is a pledge. Giving, marriage, vow. Okay. So again, this is a kind of vow of marriage. From wed, lack. Okay. Wed, lack. Usually lack is something like you're not getting it or something, or you're not. Um, Noun suffix meaning action or proceedings. Okay. So action or proceedings. Uh, Again, you see proceeding, seed, uh, even just going forth with something. Okay. Practice attested in about a dozen Old English compounds. Warfare. Warfare. I'm just saying. But this is the only surviving example. Okay. Suffix altered by folk etymology through association with lock, meaning condition of being married, is recorded from early 13th century. Are we in the third day in Genesis? Okay. Wedlock, the state of being a married couple voluntarily. So, like when they ask you, are you a citizen? And you check yes, like that. joined for life or until divorce. So again, I look at this in a sense, I'm looking at it in all types of ways, but the first thing that's coming to my mind is, when can we get the divorce? How do you get the divorce? Is it true that you can do certain things like send a uh, birth certificate back and ask for a certificate of live birth or something like this, or the whole thing with the straw man, or even is it true that you can go ahead and send your social security card back to these people and remove yourself in a certain sense or to a certain extent from this particular system? I don't know if you'll be able to still get a driver's license, or would you be able to practice the right to travel. Okay, I don't know. These are just things that I've heard and I've tapped in on a couple of times. But again, I don't specialize, or I don't think I know too much about that. Okay. So again, or a union, which made me think about the federal union or different unions that we are joined in unknowingly. Um, so it says here, let's see. Related terms are knowledge and lock and wed. Okay, so let's look at what knowledge would have to do with this. Knowledge, acknowledgement of a superior honor. Okay, acknowledgement of a superior honor. Honor thy mother and father. Um, is that where these people went wrong? Because if the mother is the earth, which is that source of natural development in a sense, and gives us everything that we actually need, until man came along and put taxes and put restrictions and put things in place in order to deter you from that way of living and bring you into his world that he created on top of yours. Okay? So again, this is what I'm talking about even when we're talking about white so-called supremacy, which I just call foreign privilege, because the fact that some of these people that are doing these things to you are not so-called white. They are so-called black as well. They look like you again. And so that would be silly to say there's any kind of privilege, supremacy there, especially if you're thinking that we're talking about white people. That's not the case. Okay. The only thing is these people have a seniority or something over you because it was a lie or a cheat, because someone stole your nationality and your heritage and your culture and gave it to these particular people. Okay. So anyhow, um, so again, if most of these people and most of these subgroups came from the womb of the Aboriginal or original so-called heavily melanated, heavy, dark pigmented woman, then when you don't honor her and she's last on the line in your so-called world, then there's going to be a problem with that. Okay. In so many ways, we do not see. In so many ways. Now, again, that's not to separate, because I don't like that separation shit. I look at everybody the same. Okay. Okay. Um, when it comes to heavily melanated people. And also, I look at life, so called life, the same when it comes to all people. Nobody deserves to be killed or misled or deceived the way that all of us have been done. But again, when it comes to heavily melanated, darker pigmented people, okay, we have to have order in the court, okay, which means that people need to be put in their proper places and be acknowledged in those positions, okay. So let's see, from late 14th century. Okay, wait a minute, I'm so sorry. For first, okay, for first element, see no. The second element is obscure. perhaps from Scandinavian and cognate with the lock action process found in wedlock. Okay, from late 14th century. Are we in the fourth day in Genesis? The way you'll be able to tell is by reading this term and all the other, some of the other related terms, and then going back into Genesis and knowing that we're talking about people and groups and things like that in Genesis 1, and then going ahead and seeing if you can see what's really going on there. Okay? So, capacity for knowing, understanding, or inner or overstanding. Familiarity, also fact of condition of knowing, awareness of a fact. Also news, mainstream media, notice, information, learning, okay, organized body of facts or teaching, an organized body, are we talking about this caste system again? Okay. Sense of sexual intercourse. Again, intercourse, but it is saying sexual, intercourse. But again, I've looked up both those terms, and again, it can be questionable as to what we're really talking about here. It's from 1400s. Middle English also had a verb form, acknowledge. 1200, are we in the second day? Later, find out. Again, it's funny what was going on in the second day. Find out about, recognize, and have sexual intercourse with. What was going on? What kind of joining together was going on in Genesis chapter 1 when we're talking about the second day? Okay. The physiological result of perception and learning and reasoning. Okay. So anyhow, yeah. So again, where since on this channel we usually correlate or put together things from the biblical aspect and what's going on today and what has happened in the past. And so again, I think that the whole thing about sinning against God by having a child out of wedlock had something to do with not being a part of their system to a certain extent. And then what was the whole thing at that point in time in this movie? It was about going up north where the white man ain't breathing down your back. He ain't calling you nigga. He doing this and that. But again, it was all still an illusion because going up north was some kind of way out to think that you were going to be able to coexist, but you still ended up having to deal with the same drama then, but they needed you up north. And so this whole Civil War and all this stuff that was supposedly had happened, it really doesn't have anything to do with what they said it did at the end of the day. It really didn't. Everybody that was involved could have been deceived because, again, no one knows what's really going on at the top. They come up with the scheme. They use you as their their world is their chessboard. The black and white checkerboard, Freemasonry. Just saying. Okay. They built it. What did they do? Build. They built it this way. Okay. So that at the end of the day, you are just pawns in the game. All of you, every single one, are pawns in the game. Some have privileges and some have none. Okay? Okay? And it has nothing to do with what you look like. It has something to do with something else. Okay? So yeah, we'll go ahead and look at wed in a second because that one is very telling. And then we're going to look at, I can't remember what the other one was, but I want to thank you guys for listening. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up, subscribe if you like, comment if you like, and hit the bell notification if you like to be notified when other videos come out. And don't forget to join us in the Facebook group American Aborigines Unchained if you would like to hear more information like this and other things that are helping unchain the minds of our people. then you are welcome to come in and join us there. We would love to have you. And yeah, take care.